Kill me first!
The night was thick with dust and gasoline, and the silence of the desert stretched like a held breath. Beneath a broken neon sign that buzzed faintly in the wind, a girl stumbled into the glow of an old roadside gas station. Her bare feet were torn, her face streaked with blood and dirt, her flannel shirt hanging loosely from trembling shoulders. The world around her felt unreal, like she had escaped a nightmare only to step into another. The air was cold against her wounds, and every breath rattled in her chest. Her eyes, wide and hollow, looked like they had forgotten what safety even meant. Then, in the distance, came the sound, low at first like thunder rolling across the barren land. It grew louder, closer, until the horizon shimmered with light. Headlights, dozens of them, cutting through the darkness. The ground trembled beneath her as a convoy of motorcycles approached, engines roaring like a storm. She froze. For a moment, she thought it was them, the ravens, the monsters she had just escaped. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of compassion even in the hardest hearts, take a moment to share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Loom. Tell us where you're watching from, because what happened next will remind you that even the roughest souls can carry the deepest humanity. The riders slowed as they neared the gas station, their headlights illuminating the frail figure in the road. She fell to her knees, her body trembling from exhaustion and fear. The leader of the group, a man they called Jackson Reaper Cole, cut the engine and stepped off his Harley. His boots crunched against the gravel as he approached her. He was tall, weathered, his long hair pulled back, tattoos winding down his arms. His eyes were sharp but not cruel, the kind of eyes that had seen too much to judge anyone too quickly. "Just kill me fast, please," she whispered, her voice barely audible, hoarse from running and crying. Reaper stopped in his tracks. Around him, the other bikers shifted uneasily, the rumble of their engines fading into the heavy silence of the night. She looked up at them with eyes that no longer hoped for rescue, only release. Her name was Lena Carter, 22 years old, but her face carried the shadow of a lifetime. 2 years earlier, she had been kidnapped by a violent outlaw gang known as the Ravens, men who fed on fear and cruelty. They didn't just take her freedom, they took her identity. They branded her with their insignia, searing it into her skin as if to claim ownership of her soul. Property of the Ravens. For months, Lena lived as a prisoner in their compound. The nights were filled with pain, the days with silence. She learned to obey, to hide her tears, to do whatever kept her alive. Every scar, every bruise, every breath became an act of survival. But tonight, something inside her broke. When the chance came, she ran. Through the darkness, barefoot and bleeding, across the desert sand, chased by the echo of their voices and the ghosts of her fear. Now she was here, face to face with another gang, her mind unable to believe in anything good. Reaper knelt in front of her slowly, careful not to startle her. He reached out a hand, but she flinched, pressing her arms against her chest. "It's all right," he said quietly, but his words sounded foreign to her, like a language she had forgotten. He called to one of his men, a biker named Doc, who carried their medical kit. When Doc gently lifted her torn shirt to check the bleeding, the air around them turned to stone. Burned into her skin, just below her ribs, were the letters that marked her torment. Property of the Ravens. No one spoke. The night swallowed every sound except the faint buzzing of the neon sign above. These men had seen violence, lived it, caused it, but this was something else. Reaper's jaw tightened as he looked at her. In that moment, the rage that lived beneath his calm exterior came alive. Not for revenge, but for justice. She turned her face away, tears falling silently. "They said no one would ever want something already marked," she whispered. Reaper didn't answer right away. Then, in a voice low and steady, he said, Not anymore. He lifted her carefully into his arms, her head resting against his leather jacket. She was too weak to resist, too broken to understand kindness. He carried her inside the diner attached to the gas station and laid her in a booth. His men stood guard by the door, watching the empty road. Someone brought her water, someone else a jacket. Slowly, the shaking in her hands eased. Piece by piece, Lena told them her story. The kidnapping, the beatings, the branding, the nights she wished for death, and the moment she found the strength to escape. The Hell's Angels listened in silence, their faces hard but their eyes filled with quiet fury. When she finished, Reaper stood up, his voice cold as steel. No one does that to a woman and walks away. What happened next never made the news. But by dawn, the ravens were gone. Their compound was nothing but dust and silence. The desert had swallowed their cruelty, leaving behind only the hum of engines fading into the horizon. When Lena awoke hours later, sunlight filtered through the blinds. The smell of coffee drifted through the air, and a warm blanket was wrapped around her shoulders. Reaper sat across the booth, silent as always, a cup of coffee cooling in his hands. She asked quietly, "Did you hurt them?" He looked at her for a long moment and said, "They won't hurt anyone again." In the days that followed, Lena stayed with the Angels. They brought her to their clubhouse, a rough place, full of noise and grease and laughter, but strangely safe. They gave her a small room with a lock on the inside. It was simple, but to her, that lock meant freedom. The first days were hard. She barely spoke. Every noise made her flinch. Every night she woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, reliving the horror she had escaped. But no one judged her. Doc changed her bandages every day, his hands gentle despite his rough appearance. The others left food outside her door and kept their voices low when she was nearby. One afternoon, she stood before the mirror, staring at the faded scar of the brand. Her eyes filled with tears. "It'll never go away," she whispered. Reaper, standing behind her, said quietly, "Scars don't disappear, Lena, but they stop hurting when you decide what they mean." Those words stayed with her. Slowly, she began to heal. She started helping in the kitchen, cleaning the bikes, laughing softly when the men told stories from the road. They treated her not as someone broken, but as family. The laughter of these loud, rough bikers became a strange kind of comfort, proof that even among outlaws, humanity could thrive. Months passed. On the anniversary of her escape, Reaper took her to a tattoo artist the Angels trusted. The old burn was still there, but that day it was transformed. Across the scar, the artist inked 3 simple words, "I am free." When she saw it in the mirror, her hands trembled. For the first time, she wasn't looking at a victim. She was looking at a survivor. Tears streamed down her face, but this time they carried strength. Not sorrow. Words spread about what the Hell's Angels had done. Other women, those trapped, hurt, forgotten, began reaching out. Lena knew she couldn't stay hidden forever. She started volunteering at a shelter for abused women, sharing her story to give others hope. The first time she spoke in front of a group, her voice shook, but she didn't stop. "I thought I was nothing," she said, "but someone believed I was worth saving." Reaper never took credit. He didn't need to. Sometimes he would ride by the shelter, drop off a donation in the box outside, and disappear down the road before anyone could thank him. But Lena always knew. She always recognized the sound of his engine fading in the distance. A year later, the Angels organized a charity ride to raise money for the shelter. Hundreds of bikers joined, men and women from all over, engines roaring in unity. As the sun set behind the hills, painting the sky in orange and gold, Lena stood on a small stage before the crowd. The air vibrated with the sound of engines idling, but when she began to speak, the world seemed to fall silent. "I once thought the world was only full of monsters," she said. "But sometimes, the people you fear the most are the ones who show you what humanity really means." Her voice broke on the last word, but she didn't cry. She smiled, a real smile, full of peace. In the crowd, Reaper stood with his arms crossed, a faint smile hidden beneath his beard. He didn't need to speak. Watching her stand strong was all the thanks he'd ever wanted. If the story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Loom. Let Lena's story remind the world that hope can be found in the most unexpected places, even in the hearts of those the world calls outlaws. Before we close, if you believe that scars don't define us, but the courage to rise from them does, drop a red heart in the comments below. Let's fill this story with love, strength, and hope for every survivor still fighting to reclaim their freedom. Because sometimes, it takes the darkest night to reveal the brightest souls.